All right. We're now going to move into what I believe might be the best segment we have ever done when I've been involved in LHLM. This is a transition from building brand awareness to building brand affinity. And we started talking about this with Veterans Day. And to overly simplify this, brand awareness is throwing up the flag that everyone else throws up and saying Happy Veterans Day to put that brand in front of people. What it fails to do, and in fact, what Gyi suggested there may actually be a negative correlation, is with brand affinity, the know, like, and trust, right? Brand awareness is no. There's a lot of no going on and a lot of focus on no. So, for example, billboard ads are a classic no. I am aware of this brand. There is very little emphasis on like, and yet some law firms are really killing it by building that like and trust. And I think that's what we want to talk about today, right?
Yeah, and again, this isn't a abandoned direct response conversation.
No, not at all. It's additive.
But it is additive. But I think it's also, it's really, and you mentioned this in the opening there, but it's about the resource deployment. The resources deployed against direct response are enormous, right? $500 cost per clicks. Whatever they're paying the social media manager to put up the American flags. Can't get over that one.
By the way, if you're doing that, like, go look somewhere else. I'll be that direct. Come on. Sorry.
Yeah.
Moving on.
But how about all the people? And lawyers, the lawyers that have been doing this forever, they know this, right? They know about this no like trust stuff, right?
I mean, there are a small handful of lawyers who get this, and most of you don't, frankly. And there's a couple of reasons for this. It's hard, and it takes time, and it takes genuine engagement, and it's not something that you can outsource to the social media marketing intern, right? Because we're not going to build no like and trust for Jeff, the social media marketing intern. It's got to be for the firm as a whole, and it's a hard thing to do. It's also less direct, right? We in pay per click, we can tell you that you got this revenue. If you have a good reporting system, this revenue came from that click, that campaign, and so let's turn that campaign up or turn it down. It's a fire hose. Brand affinity has nothing to do with that, right? Brand affinity is all about, I know who you are, I like who you are, and for whatever reason, we have something in common, and I want to and when I have a need, I'm going to turn to you, right? That is amazing. And it's just missed. And think about like the very negative perspective of the legal industry, of lawyers. You guys live with us your entire lives. What we're talking about is turning this around. Generically, people don't like lawyers. Specifically, they like their own lawyer. How do we get to a point where they like you, a law firm or a lawyer, before they actually need you? That's all we're talking about, right? And it is a mindset shift. So, Gyi, what are some of the tactical, I mean, we've been talking very philosophically at this point, but what are some of the tactical things that we have seen law firms do to build affinity?
Make potato pie at the Elks Club.
I knew this was going to come up.
I can't believe you didn't plug it.
I was
I
waiting
feel like you were
for
going to miss it.
I was waiting for the right. Okay, so back to the show notes. What I want to talk through here is there is a return, a full circle to what Gyi and I dealt with lawyers when we got into this SEO digital marketing game, where lawyers said, well, I just do good work and I have this good reputation and that's where my business is going to come from, by gum, right? Well, it was Murray back at the Elks Club, like, oh boy, that guy, I'm a member of the Elks Club, and Murray, he's a lawyer, but boy, does he make a great potato pie. And so I'm going to hire him for my divorce, right? Now, Murray's engagement with the Elks Club and his mean potato pie have nothing to do with him being a good divorce lawyer. In fact, he may not actually do divorce, but there's the affinity there. And what we're seeing now is a small number, a very select number of law firms building out that affinity it happened in person at the Elks Club over their, potato pie, right? But I'm gonna send that question back to you, Gyi. So it's not the potato pie. What is it? What are law firms doing to build that like and trust digitally or not digitally?
Well,
How's it
and this
working right
is
now?
well, this is the thing about it. It starts with who are you? Like, what are
Ah,
you into? Like, there's not like people that are listening to this and being like, oh, Gyi, they're taking notes, and Gyi's going to tell me the promoted, boosted social campaign that I can use to get my, oh, we got to do potato pies. Like, oh, lawyers that do potato pies, that's the thing that's causing people to hire. No. What do you care about? Because it's going to come through. It's going to go back. I'll tell you what, it goes back to this, bringing it back to the American flags again. The firms that are posting American flags on all the lawyer profiles, they're the ones where I'm like, you know what? They don't really seem to be that interested in Veterans Day because they've got a canned, scheduled post versus the ones that are actually like they're sharing, they were a veteran themselves, they're sharing experiences, they're talking about someone in their family. Again, I think that really, to me, that drives home the example. But tactically, it starts with who you are and what you actually care about. And if you don't really care about much, guess what it starts with? There's got to be something in your life that you're interested in doing, right?
you sound like a psychiatrist to a teenager right now.
Please tell me you have a casual hobby that other people might be interested in. At least one other person could be potentially. Start there.
Yeah.
Right?
Start there. And the key here, everyone is into something, and it is not, the know, like, and trust is not about I am a lawyer. Because if you ask about know, like, and trust as it comes to lawyers, the generic response is not very flattering, right? And so we need to go further than that. I love the veterans example. Do something. Go beyond that. Go the slightly extra mile. It's not that hard. Thanksgiving is coming up. Do something more. Go instead of Happy Thanksgiving, donate something. Spend some time at a food kitchen. Like do something with a firm, or don't do anything. But putting up a turkey, everyone else is putting up turkeys. It's doing nothing for you.
So what are some, I can think of a handful of lawyers off the top of my head that, like, when we started having this conversation, I started thinking about who comes to mind for you.
My favorite example is Morris Lilienthal. And it's a great example of someone who has taken what I will call very generic things and made them a part of who he is. Like for starters, he's a very nice, avuncular, outgoing man, but he's also a very interested father, right? Okay, that's a low bar. Lots of you fall into that category. He's also very interested in his local market of Huntsville, Alabama, and promoting Huntsville, Alabama. I haven't talked to him without him talking about Huntsville, Alabama being one of the fastest growing places in the U.S. He's very proud of that. Here's another very easy one with Morris, and I'm not hesitant to share this, but he's gone through a massive weight loss program. The dude was big. Morris and I have probably crossed weight scales recently. He's looking awesome. He's shared, like, you got to be kind of brave on this, but he's shared his weight loss experience. I think he posts like 2 or 3 times a week. Morris really sweaty getting off the Peloton, right? That's something that people can relate to. It's know, like, and trust. You're a really good dad. Like, you're doing your best to be a great dad, and you're proud of your kids. That's something that lots of people can relate to. The interesting thing, and sorry, we're gonna come back to Morris, and I'm gonna make another point. Give me a different example.
I always think of Ken Levinson and Jay Stephanie. I know we've talked about them before.
Yeah.
But they, Ken, and in fact, it's kind of the opposite because Ken gets comments. They're like, and he's also a basketball guy, but people are like, oh my God, how are you not 500 pounds? Because all I see are pictures of you eating out on, whether it's networking or, taking the team out. They love to eat together. They do the Chicago. I think it's great too. If your affinity also connects to a geography, I think that's great. You mentioned that with Morris and Huntsville, because again, it's when you're thinking about you're back at the Elks Club, and Murray, whose potato pie you love, he doesn't actually do divorce, but you know what? He's thinking of Mo in Huntsville, right? Or he's thinking of Ken up in Chicago because of that brand affinity, because they like you, right?
So this is the point that I wanted to come back to. And I am definitely seeing this in some of the tertiary and occasionally secondary markets. Building brand affinity is not we've talked ad nauseum about the importance of niching and specialization. Brand affinity has nothing to do with the area of law in which you practice. Okay. It is very difficult to have probably very difficult to have brand affinity for a very specific practice of law because it's rarely about the practice of law that people have an affinity with you for. What this means is that you will get lots of inbound inquiries. And if you are a curmudgeonly, grumbly client, oh, I get all these questions about divorce. I get all these inquiries about things that we don't do. Great, celebrate that. You're doing the hardest part of this, getting business. Now that may not be for your firm, but what we're seeing in the tertiary and some of these secondary markets, Morris is a great example of this, but there are lots of other ones where you're the traditional old school firm that does divorce. You got a PI person, you've got a criminal defense person, you've got you do maybe some small business stuff. You are the big law firm that's been around for a long time. You do a lot of different practice areas. The value of brand affinity there is so much stronger because you can actually turn more of those leads into business for the firm. And I think, and I don't know if you're seeing that, Gyi, but I have a handful of clients for whom this is really, really working well, who are adding practice areas because everyone know, likes, and trusts them. And they come to them for everything. And it's like, all right, we got all this criminal work. Maybe we should be bringing on a criminal attorney.
Yeah, exactly right. I was just trying to think of some other examples here. Another one that I think we've talked about him before, but Brooks Derrick, the Derrick Law Office on YouTube. You know, he highlights local small business owners in his area on YouTube. I mean, what a great way to raise visibility for these local businesses, have them tell their story. People want to see that stuff. It's local. And then guess what? All the people that also know those folks, they're also like, oh, this is super cool. And it's not, it's just interview style. Like, this is not like, $40,000 production quality stuff. Like it's a very authentic conversation and you gravitate towards it.
And it's so easy to paint yourself in a good light when you are supporting local businesses. I will tell you that, this isn't in the show notes, but if you're one of my clients, starting in July of next year, we're going to be working on a campaign for you called the 12 Days of Christmas. And what we would like to do is profile one local business in your location for 12 days starting on December 1st, right? You just profile the local business. Please, instead of buying stuff through Amazon or Walmart or Fred Meyer or whatever it might be, go support your local businesses, right? Has nothing to do with the practice of law, has nothing to do with anything other than you supporting your local businesses, which is the most noble thing that you can do. This is why Gyi and I are in this business. We love supporting small, local, growing businesses that happen to be law firms in this case. Take the same thing, support your local businesses, right? And it's there's so much you can do with this. And those of you, again, I bring this back to like, you can do that, or you can say happy holidays, right? Or happy Veterans Day or happy Thanksgiving. So start expecting more, something more creative, something more tied to your location, yourself, who you are, to build brand affinity instead of just brand awareness.
And again, Conrad and I are likely going to mention this person's name over and over again, but Chris Walker at Refine Labs, and this goes into the conversation about dark social, because then we get into sure, put a qualitative form on your website that asks how they find you, ask it as part of your intake. But one of the points that he made, and we've talked about this before too, from the Google perspective, but a lot of people, when they're going to look for a variety of services, and especially young people that are coming into the marketplace now, they're not just going to Google. They're going to check hashtags that they know on Instagram and TikTok. They want to see what the other people who they're connected with on these platforms, who do they like? Where do they like to eat? What lawyers do they work with? What professional service providers do they work with? And that is the thing that really, beyond if you're just philosophically you get it, but you're like, how does this translate to digital? That's how. It's those connections. It's them finding you on these other platforms, in addition to them you know renting space in their mind when they're not thinking about you because you have the brand affinity. But it's also connected to this idea of like that's where the consumer's going. They want to go to their network to get referrals, and that's where you want to be.
All right. With that inspirational tale, thinking about moving into the holiday season, be more. Don't just hang up the Happy Veterans Day on your Facebooks and the socials. Do more. It's a very easy opportunity this coming season to be a lot more than happy holidays.
Grow your like.
Grow your like, not just your brand. I like it.
There you go.
Money makes a it makes a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round. Yeah, money